Johnson and his team were still drunk on the post-Brexit euphoria, thinking they could walk on water, and hadn't done the hard work required in relation to getting ready, from basic stuff like lack of PPE to not ordering the face mask to not making face masks compulsory early enough. Had the government acted sooner and acted in a different way, I think fewer lives would have been lost.
What was your childhood like? What was a young Sadiq Khan like?
I've got to be honest, I had a great childhood. I mean, looking back now, yeah, of course, yeah, it was tough and all the rest of it, but it didn't feel tough. There was 8 of us. So I got 3 brothers older, 3 brothers younger, and I got a sister who's older, mum, dad. We lived in a 3-bedroom council place in South London, the Henry Prince Estate, and we didn't think we lived in overcrowded accommodation. We didn't think it was a big deal doing your homework on the floor. We didn't think it was a big deal. It was only later on you realise that people have their own bedrooms, or they've got a desk to do their homework on, or they've got gardens. And so I had a great childhood. I mean, it was tough. Made you streetwise. Looking back now, people say you went to a tough school. It didn't feel tough when you're there. I mean, many of my best friends now are still mates from school. Some of my mates, didn't end up as well. Some of them did go to prison. Some of them did get involved in criminality and stuff. But I was blessed. Great teachers. Great life at home. Good friends. And I still live in the area. I still live in the same area. The joke is I was born in Tooting, raised in Tooting, married in Tooting. I'll probably die there as well. Hopefully not too soon.
What was it that made you want to get into politics?
When I was 15, a number of things happened. My dad's bus garage was being closed down because of privatisation from Thatcher. My teachers were on industrial action because of cuts from the government, and so they stopped doing football and cricket at the weekends as part of the industrial action. And lots of my mates, big brothers in particular, were regularly stopped and searched under the old sus laws by the police. So all those things made me very angry, and the issue is, how do I channel that anger? And I thought the idea of being the MP for my community that I was born and raised in was the only reason I'd walk away from my legal career, my firm, doing the law that I did, because it was a chance to represent my community in Parliament.
Why did you decide you wanted to be Mayor of London?
It's the best job in politics. Basically, you work hard, you get a helping hand, you can achieve anything. That's the London promise. But too many Londoners are working hard, they're not getting the helping hand, and they're not fulfilling their potential. And I wanted to be somebody who can provide the helping hand by being the mayor of this great city. I was also, if I'm honest, frustrated by being a parliamentarian, even when I was in government, attending cabinet. In Parliament, you got to work in silos, and you got to understand the hierarchy. If you're Minister for Transport, you're only talking about transport. You can't get involved in other people's lanes in their silos. When you're the mayor, you can go all over the place. You're in charge of everything, and you're the boss, and you can do stuff. Whether it's fixing the housing crisis, whether it's improving air quality, whether it's investing in youth services, whether it's standing up for those Londoners who are heartbroken, devastated and depressed because our country voted to leave the EU, giving them a sense of belonging. So the opportunities as a mayor are infinite.
Being mayor during an incredibly hard time in London's history, what's been the single hardest day for you?
Well, somebody once said to me recently, actually, I mean, you've had everything. The only thing missing is a plague of locusts. I mean, it's been, I'm not suggesting that I'm Moses or we live in Egypt. But it's been tough. In 2017, a number of things, 4 terrorist attacks, the awful Grenfell Tower fire. You've then got the pandemic. I think, getting the phone call about Grenfell Tower was awful, seeing the images, going there the next morning, seeing the smoke coming out, meeting the families. In real time, living through the terror attacks in Westminster Bridge, London Bridge, not knowing, what's going on. And that's when your preparation, your planning kicks in. You've got a good team around you. It's really important to have a good team around you. I never switch off. I'm 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, as are my team.
But you mentioned there about the pandemic. You remember the moment when you were like, all of our lives are going to change?
Yeah, I remember it vividly. So what happened was, so initially Johnson wasn't inviting me to any of the Cobra meetings, so I think there were 4 or 5. I mean, forget not inviting me, he didn't bother to go to some of them. And so we were in the dark as to what was going on in London. And the first time I went, it was a Monday, and it was like, for me, it was like bloody hell. I mean, the numbers, it's obvious that we're the capital city, and people have come to London, and we're super spreaders. We are a super spreader, right? We are city zero for the UK. And there was sort of lax attitude from Johnson and his team, and I didn't understand it. And it was obvious to me where this was heading because I was speaking to colleagues around the world. I was trying to explain that lives are going to be lost, and this is going to be, we're going to go into lockdown and stuff. And that's when it started sinking in that we're in it for the long term. The consequences are going to be stark in relation to lives and livelihoods lost. Potentially, our city will never be the same again. And actually, I didn't then think that would be 2 years. I thought we're talking about weeks, maybe months. I didn't predict, 2 years on, we're now slowly starting to come out of the pandemic years. I mean, the lackadaisical attitude of Johnson and his team beggared belief then. And when you look at the numbers of deaths and how ill-prepared we were, and here's the thing, the pandemic had started around the globe, right? So we could see what was happening in the Far East, in China, it had gone to Italy. So we weren't the first mover, so we could see what was happening. We could avoid the mistakes others had made, and learn from the successes. We didn't do any of that. And I think Johnson and his team were still drunk on the post-Brexit euphoria, thinking they could walk on water, and hadn't done the hard work required in relation to getting ready from basic stuff like lack of PPE to not having the NHS ready, to not having the right ventilators, to not ordering the face masks, to not making face masks compulsory early enough, to not closing down people mixing and mingling, passing on this virus and so forth. And I remember saying to Boris Johnson, look, you're a libertarian, I'm somebody who's passionate about human rights. If the both of us are saying, let's lock down, people will see there must be a serious reason and people will then act. But had the government acted sooner and acted in a different way, I think fewer lives would have been lost.
Another very difficult time, which was the murder of Sarah Everard. We've recently launched this campaign aimed to end violence against women and girls. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're launching this campaign?
Well, I think those of us who are men and boys need to have the humility to realise that our life experiences are very different to the life experiences of women and girls. Simple things like, those blokes watching this like me, when we use the tube, people aren't touching us up. People aren't taking photographs up our skirts. We don't have to change the footwear so we can run faster if we are being followed, or have keys in our hands in case we need to clench our fist and punch or to open the door quickly. We aren't imposing on ourselves a curfew, so we can't go out after a certain time because it's not safe, because it's dark. And Sarah was abducted very near from my home, actually, where we go for a walk. And I remember my daughters, my wife and I walking around there and seeing the posters on the trees and the lampposts, because her mates did a brilliant job during the time she was missing, trying to raise awareness. And in fact, the road she was abducted from by the serving police officer is a road that I know very well. So it was personal for obvious reasons. But also I think men need to reflect upon the fact that it's our behaviour. When we talk about violence against women and girls, it's from men. And I think misogyny is linked with violence. And we may think sometimes it's banter, we're just having fun, but that's not how it's received by women and girls. So the campaign is one we did a lot of work talking to and listening to women and girls and experts, as well as men. And it's aimed at men, frankly speaking. And we need to be good allies of women and girls, not to be a bystander when we see bad things happening, whether it's ourselves behaving in an inappropriate way or whether it's our mates or people we know.
Looking back, Sarah Everard was just over a year ago now. When you look back on it, is there anything that you regret from that time?
Yeah, a lot of things in relation to this. I think the police response to the vigil, I was quite clear at the time, I think the police got it wrong, particularly when we've since discovered that, up the road, the lawmakers were breaking them, right? At a time when what women and girls wanted to do was to show solidarity to Sarah and to remember all those who had lost their lives. And there are other things I think we could have done differently in relation to what we've since discovered. about how the police don't vet properly those they take on, about the fact that there's a culture that is in the police where overt sexism, misogyny, racism, homophobia, discrimination seems to be acceptable in relation to this. And one of the reasons why I made clear to the commissioner that I lost confidence in her was because it's quite clear that what the leadership wasn't comprehending was that there are deep cultural issues in the police service that leads to overt racism, sexism, misogyny, discrimination, homophobia, but also the lack of a plan to win back the trust and confidence of Londoners, which is desperately needed when you police by consent. We need to make sure that sexual harassment in a public place is a criminal offence. We've got to give the CPS, the police, the criminal justice system the resources they need, and so forth. And so, it's not just a policing issue. And what we're doing from City Hall now is to try and prevent. The best way to reduce violence against women and girls is to prevent it going in the first place. So it's not just a policing issue, important though they are, and crucial they are. We've also got to make sure there's prevention, there's action against perpetrators, and we've got to stop that spreading.
I think we focused on a lot of the hardest parts of your job. What's the best bit of your job?
Well, listen, I got to be honest. I thought as mayor I was being invited here to take part in the snack wars. Now, listen, it's great. Listen, the best part of my job is meeting ordinary Londoners. I mean, it's just I can't. I mean, every day I hear a story about somebody whose lives been transformed by our city, sometimes by our policies. I mean, it is a remarkable job. You could meet. Forget. No 2 days are the same. No 2 hours are the same. We are a city where, and people don't realise this. More than 300 countries of origin, are Londoners. We are the most diverse city in the world. It's a strength, as far as I'm concerned, not a weakness. And we've seen in relation to Londoners' response, forget our government, Londoners' response to what's happening in Ukraine, some of the best of our city, and I love it.
What do you do for fun?
I love football. I love playing tennis. Love going for a run. We've got a dog, Luna, who we love. Going out. Hoping to see the Batman very soon. Going to the theatre. I've got tickets for Weller coming up, and Michael Kiwanaku.
So Liverpool this season, they're still in the hunt for the quadruple. Do you think they'll do it? Do you think they'll pull it off?
My heart says yes. My head says no. I mean, for me, Premier League, Champions League, give up the FA Cup.
And then Jurgen Klopp. Would Jurgen Klopp make a great Prime Minister?
Yeah. But on.
What makes him a leader? What makes him a great leader?
Oh, well, listen, you can't but watch a Klopp interview and not smile at the end of it. He's infectious, he's charismatic, he's a hugger, he brings people together, he brings the best of people. It shows that you can be a successful leader and be a decent guy. Message for you, Boris Johnson.
Who's your favourite player ever?
Ever.
All time?
Just one. I can't do one. Oh, God, it's Dalglish. But the ideal is, you got Dalglish and Rush, then you got Souness, then you bring in Johnny Barnes and Stevie G. I'll play in the right as well. I'd probably put Alisson in goal and not Clements or Grobbler, but yeah.
When you go to the pub, what's your drink of choice?
Diet Coke, no ice, bitter lemon.
What's your favourite film ever?
Oh, good one. It's got to be the Rockies, 1, 2 and 3. Yeah. 4's not bad. The Russia thing's not bad. I met Dolph Lundgren, nice guy.
How did you meet Dolph Lundgren?
Yeah. Well, on one of the joys of my job is you spend half an hour being cross-examined by Piers Morgan and Susanna Reid. And the quid pro quo is you meet Dolph Lundgren, who's about to come on and be interviewed as well. He's huge. Listen, everyone's huge to me. Even Mo Salah's huge to me. But Dolph Lundgren is huge. Really nice guy, though.
Who do you want to be the next James Bond?
Riz Ahmed, Cillian Murphy, or Idris Elba, one of the three.
Who is your favourite member of the Conservative Party?
One who's lost an election. Actually, I mean, of current MPs, I quite like Nadeem Zahawi. I like Sajid Javid. Actually, put aside the politics and stuff. Ed Vaizey, I get on with really well. I mean, listen, people think we hate each other. We sometimes we do, but an opponent is not necessarily an enemy, and we try and get on, behind the scenes and stuff. And it's not true to say we hate each other. Some I do though.
I won't ask you who. Last question. World Cup year this year. Are England going to win it?
Yeah, the key thing is to pick Trent this time. Don't mess them around. And as an extra player and stuff. I think we can do it. The experience, 2 semi-finals in relation to a World Cup and the Euros, bodes well for us. And don't forget, this summer is the Women's Euros finals in London, and so wouldn't that be a great springboard for the blokes later on this year?
Aged about 13. My dad was at the hospital, I was at home with the other kids, and he phoned me to say, your mum's not going to make it. And then he said, can you tell the others? And that was pretty tough for a 13-year-old to try to contemplate.